So, as you've probably heard, a few days ago Formula One announced that the Australian Grand Prix this year will not be taking place due to COVID restrictions in the country. So, here are a few tracks that I believe can and should take over Albert Park's spot on the 2021 Formula One calendar. First of all, the rules for the tracks that I'm going to be selecting. I'm narrowing it down to only the 44 FIA Grade 1 circuits in the world, so no Grade 2 circuits are going to be used in the categorization of this video. On top of that, certain tracks, such as Australia for an example, cannot be used due to bad COVID conditions in the country that they're being hosted in. That narrows it down even more. And on top of that, there are some places that already have a spot on the calendar. Well, many that already do, and I'm not going to be selecting any of those. Needless to say, we don't need 3 races at the Red Bull Ring. We don't need multiple races in really any other circuit on the calendar at the moment. So I've narrowed it down to a few tracks not currently on the calendar that are FIA Grade 1. Starting off with the first track, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There's likely no track in America more well-renowned and more known throughout the world than the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Of course, it hosts the Indianapolis 500 as well as other IndyCar and NASCAR events, but it is also one of only 2 current FIA Grade 1 tracks in the United States. The other, of course, being Circuit of the Americas in Austin, which sees a date anyway on the calendar. The IMS road course is a 14-turn course, and the big deal about this track, people are saying, is the last time F1 raced here was an absolute mess. Widely regarded as the worst F1 race in history, it had a grand total of 6 cars start the race after tire wars disrupted the rest of the starting grid. The main issue of that, though, of course, was the banked turn, the last one on the track at the time, which in the new road course configuration has been cut out. A chicane has been placed there instead, and it would not have really an issue on the Formula One cars. It, like I said, an FIA Grade 1 spot. And Liberty Media, they've wanted multiple races in the United States for years now. Why not start a year early? Of course, they're racing in Miami next year. We could throw a race into Indianapolis right now. Americans love the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They love motorsports as a whole. It is a perfect chance to bring Formula One right back to the Circle City of Indianapolis. Now, on to the next track that I would like to see possibly added in Albert Park. Germany is also very well known for a pair of tracks that they have had with significant history on the F1 calendar. Both the Hockenheim Ring and the Nuremberg Ring. People have been trying to get back into the sport for a while now, since they have not hosted, either of them have not hosted a race in a couple of years. But this is a perfect opportunity. Now, I could go with the Nuremberg Ring in this video, but I'm just choosing the Hockenheim Ring instead for this spot. There have been some amazing races here these last few years. I don't know why it was cut from the calendar. Even in a COVID year when things were kind of jumbled around, it would still be a perfect spot. Sadly, it was one of the few tracks that were cut off from the year, but it is a beautiful place for Formula One racing. The German Grand Prix would be an amazing race to get right back on the calendar. And yes, I feel as if it would be a very, very fun race to watch. Of course, Mercedes, a German team, would be kind of a home race for them, even though they've become a kind of a British team with the Silverstone and British Grand Prix here coming up next week. But Hockenheim, this is a perfect chance to get it right back onto the schedule. It has been a classic F1 track for a while now. Put it back. Get Hockenheim on the schedule. Another track that has not seen Formula One action in a little bit, but absolutely should, is Malaysia. The Malaysian Grand Prix has not been raced at for a while, but yet it is still an FIA Grade 1 circuit. And with Albert Park, of course, being cut off the calendar, Oceania has lost its spot as a continent with Formula One this year. Now, Malaysia, obviously an Asian country, but it is relatively close to that region, and Formula One would fit perfectly there. I believe it's Herman Tilke's best track design, and many others believe the same, or at least I've seen most people I know rate it very high up in the tracks that he has designed. Why not throw a race in there? We're shaking up the calendar anyway, and we know Monza and Silverstone have those sprint qualifying races. Why not throw sprint qualifying in here? Malaysia, another thing it brings is rain, and lots of it. Most other sports, F1's kind of a funny thing, most other sports, they dread the rain. They don't want to play in the rain. I'm surrounded by some baseball stuff here. If it starts raining in baseball, the game gets delayed. If it starts raining in Formula One, that's when the fireworks start to come out. Either the wet tires or the intermediate tires come on, and it becomes less of a race of machinery and more of a race of pure driver skill, which is what we love to see. We love to see all the drama. There have been so many interesting rain races. I had one here in Malaysia. I really do feel that it would be a really, really smart place to go, and I still don't get why it does not have a track on the calendar. Now, I have one more here, one more track, but before I get on to that, if you guys like the video so far, make sure you hit like and subscribe if you do like the content and want to see more of this. Now, on to the fourth and final track that I believe could and possibly should be put in Albert Park's place. So, possibly an unpopular opinion here, but I believe that Bahrain should get another date on the Formula One calendar. Now, I know what you're saying. You said at the beginning of the video that we don't need places at the exact same track, and I'm standing by that. I say we use the opposite of the Bahrain inner circuit that was used at the first race of the season, and we do another Sakir Grand Prix and use the Bahrain outer circuit. Now, the circuit debuted last year in 2020 with Checo's remarkable last to first place win, the first of his career, and an emotional one, as at the time he didn't have a seat going into this year. It had George Russell nearly winning the race. It had close racing throughout, and it is a very technical track. It's not over-turny. There's not a bunch of curves on it. It has a lot of speed, but if you use too much confidence in there, if you go in there trying to just go the fastest you can and trying to ignore the turns, like Mazepin, but he's just kind of, well, that's Mazepin. I believe that you could really have some really, really good racing here. So, those are my four tracks that I believe could and possibly should really have the strongest cases to replace Albert Park on the 2020 calendar. What do you guys think? Put your comments down below. Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree? Do you have a different track that I'm missing? Do you have any thoughts on races that could be held here? Put them down below. I will definitely check those out. If you've made it this far in the video, thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'm Krondawg. This is Krondawg Racing, and I will see you next time.